under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing, and Pastor Basio will give our invocation.
Council, Mayor, let's pray. Lord, we thank you for this brand new year, an opportunity to begin again. We pray for guidance and strength. Lord, we ask even for those who are working out in the cold weather, and we pray even for interesting and unique situations like broken pipes. And Lord, we pray for our DPW and all those who are servicing us to be protected and protect our city and our facilities too. Thank you for this meeting in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. Ask the clerk to take our roll, please.
Councilman Templin.
Present.
Councilman Cisco.
Present.
Councilman DiGiulio.
Here.
Councilwoman Gavarecki.
Present.
Councilman Rourke.
Here.
Madam Pro Tem McLeod. Here. Treasurer Armstrong.
Present.
And Mayor Mategas.
Present.
We have a quorum, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Ask for a motion for approval of tonight's agenda.
Motion. Support.
Councilman Cisco has moved. Councilman DiGiulio has supported. Are there any questions, changes? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Hey.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. Motion to approve the minutes of December 19th.
Motion.
Moved by Councilwoman Gavarecki, supported by Councilman Rourke. Is there any discussion, questions, changes? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. Thank you very much. Down to organizational business, the city administrator's reports, please.
Good evening, Mayor, Council residents. The deputy assessor has let us know that she's beginning one of her busy times of her busy season. She's filing the personal property statements and also preparing for the March border review. We'll get those dates as soon as I have them from her. I'll get those out to everybody. The finance department, Mr. Katie and Amanda Wirtz, our deputy finance director, they have started the budget process for the 2018-19 budget year, and that'll begin on July 1st. We'll have a schedule for you for next meeting, kind of outlining everything, but it looks like tentatively we'll have the budget to the mayor and council on April 10th is the plan at this point in time. Now there's subject to some change there. The DPS and Liquiforce will begin lining the some sections of the sewer somewhere around the end of January, early February, and that'll be going through the month of February, I believe. They're still working on a few areas of concern, getting everything prepped up and ready to go for that sewer lining. The gym floor at the community center is now complete. Remember, Pat went to bid on that. We put in a new floor for the gym, and that including painting the pickleball lines. I mentioned that because that is a pretty serious event over there at the community center. So they now have painted lines as opposed to taped lines. That is a big deal. So very serious issue over there. And then for the City Hall and Police Department project, the contractors finished the exterior brick walls of the City Hall portion of the addition in the front of the building, and they're working on the jail cells and some additional concrete block walls throughout the building. The roof contractor continues to work on the new roof, and that area that they're working on now is over the police department side, the side closest to the court, if you're looking at the front of the building to the project. And then they have a good portion of the drywall has already been hung on the City Hall side. I believe, I'd probably say in the City Hall side of what they have built, probably 90% of the drywall has been hung in that side. And once the jail cells are done and they get some other walls, they'll be ready to move over to the police department side. And then they're working on getting the additions airtight, or weather-tight, I should say. And then they'll be able to pour the concrete floors in those two additions and the entryway. And once that is done, then they'll be able to start the metal stud construction and move forward on the drywall. The weather has cooperated, so they were able to get out there and finish that the addition. The weather, the last couple days, next couple days coming up, I think we're at 50 degrees tomorrow, will help tremendously. The moisture will not, but the weather will help a lot to be able to get the floor prepped and get the concrete in there. I think they're ready to put the concrete in, everything weather permitting, next Tuesday or Wednesday. And that'll be a big sign of moving that progress along. Still looks to be on time for somewhere around May 1st, I'm going to guess. We'll know more as we get closer to the a couple more milestones that they have to reach interior. But J.S. Vig's crew has been doing a tremendous job over there, and the crews, I think, have really taken some ownership in trying to get the project done for us. In the other information I handed out to you is just an update on the CDBG program, just to let you know where some timelines are and where we are in previous years, and the amount of money that we've spent. I calculated up over before the holiday. Since I've been involved in the city here, we've brought in, we vouchered back for reimbursement over $800,000 since 2013. So it's some good projects we've had going on here. So. And it's a sign of good people we work with here to get everything ready for DPS and so forth to get us the projects. And we still haven't heard on the recapture funds from CDBG. They're trying to go through their list, and I think that they were overwhelmed with the amount of requests that they had for reimbursement. So ideally, there's no money left if every community would have been able to spend their money, but we'll see how that goes out. So I'm still hopeful that we'll be able to get some money for recapture, and that'll be for the tot lot at Arlington and Lawrence. And then I don't know if Council Mayor Pro Tem McLeod mentioned this, but we did receive the Allen Park Citizen Civic Fund received a grant from the Greater Metropolitan Association of Realtors for 5 little free libraries, and they'll be placed in the parks. This is where it looks like a little house, almost like a little birdhouse, and there's books in there. People can go in and exchange books and take them out, and that's kind of a neat idea. You see a lot of other places, and we'll finally have some here in Allen Park as well. That is all.
Can I have a motion to accept the city administrator's updates, reports?
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem McLeod, supported by Councilwoman Gavrecki. Do we have questions for the city administrator, please? Councilman Cisco.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the snow removal and go through the process a little bit so our citizens know that we do plow our streets. And maybe Mr. Murray could help with this a little bit, our DPS director.
He doesn't drive the trucks.
Little rough. So, just so everybody knows, do all our trucks have GPS
Yes.
tracking on them?
Every truck for plowing does have.
And so we actually track by program
Yes,
all the streets that we do.
yes.
So when somebody says my street hasn't been plowed, that would be an easy thing to find out.
We can look it up right away. If we can't tell you the plow was down, we can tell you the truck went down, but they don't drive around without the plows being down.
Right. And is that something that your department can do if a citizen calls and said, hey, on my street, nobody's been by for 2 months?
Yes, we've done that several times with calls. After we explain to the citizens that we see that the plow truck went down, or we give them the date, the time, and even the miles per hour, especially when they like to tell us we do 50 miles per hour down side streets.
And that
It pretty
actually
much-
tracks
it
the
does
miles per hour also.
It does the miles per hour. It tells you what time of day they were there, if they've done more than one pass, you can bring it up how many times they went down the street.
And so we talked about this a little bit earlier, but so how many people do we have working in DPS right now? Not the water department, but just DPS?
6 individuals.
We have 6.
6.
And we have how many plow trucks?
We have 5 currently. I have one we ordered back in July, just received it, but it's not up and running yet.
And those are
Probably
the
for
big
about a
ones,
week.
right?
Yes, the big ones. And then we have 1 small 450 and we have 2 250s. That does the dead ends, typically the smaller ones. We try to get to them with those.
So we have 6 in DPS, and how many people in water?
7 that work on water main breaks, sewers, and repairs.
And so we've had to have some of those people from water come over and
They help
plow.
each other out. They
So we
have
have 13 total employees for
For day-to-day operations.
day-to-day
of that
operations,
nature, yes.
including plowing
Yes,
for 99 miles of road.
correct. And 5 passes per.
I think you
every
guys
road.
have done a great job for what you have. And I appreciate the dedication that's being done on a daily basis. It shows,
Thank you.
so I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions? I will ask for the vote for accepting the updates, reports, and submissions. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are at the public comment section. I would ask you to look on the back of your agendas if you have them, and please respect the rules of decorum for conducting yourselves at our microphone. So, citizens, you want to come forward to comment or question?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Happy New Year to you and to all our citizens. A couple questions. Marie McGusson, Quant. Okay. I had a citizen that I talked to just recently, and he's just asking a question. And through the chair, Mayor, to Mark. Are you planning to go ahead and have an open house for the new city hall, before operations, so our citizens can walk through the whole entire area without going ahead and without, us being in the ways of the police and everything else that will be there? So I'm asking, before it goes in operation, if it's going to be open at all, so we can walk through the whole facility.
I've had this conversation briefly with the mayor about doing an open house. We have plans we'll be doing an open house. How much we'll be able to get in there before the city takes over, it's hard to say. We've got to get out of this building, and it's going to be a matter of timing.
Okay. Let's talk about the snow removal. I know it's going to warm up tomorrow, so most of the problems with the snow is going to be probably just melt away before we even know it, because it started to melt today. But because we turned around and did not have a declared snow emergency, like some other cities did, we packed down 6 inches of snow on top of our streets. Now, I'm no professional, and maybe the powers behind me can go ahead and address this, but I don't believe our plows can come through, as heavy as they are, to actually cut through packed snow that turned into ice that is 6 inches thick. With cars all over the place, including garbage containers. There was no snow emergency. But I know a lot of our citizens on our street turned around and thought that, hey, maybe the plows would come through. So we moved our vehicles off the street. Plows never came through. They finally hit my street today, which I understand. I'm not up here to argue, bitch, about that. But it was a warm day. But we had to struggle through our packed snow. So I'd just like to ask the question, Mr. Mayor, why wasn't a snow emergency enacted to help our DPW workers, to make it easier for them to drive those big rigs through parked cars when other cities throughout this metropolitan area declared a snow emergency? And even when we declare a snow emergency, I would really like to know why the ordinance is not put in force to get those vehicles the heck off these streets, to help you and every one of you, and including all my residents who are listening to me now, because when a big truck tries to come around a car, he misses 3 houses with no problem. And then when that individual gets up and leaves, you have 6 inches of snow in front of you. So, simple question. I'd like to know why a snow emergency was not enforced. The last time when a snow emergency was enforced, it was called at 12 o'clock midnight, and that was last year. And 12 o'clock midnight, when it's declared, it's pretty hard for me to get my vehicle off the street.
All right. You got a whole bunch of questions, but I'll answer them all. First, our practice is that unless there is more than 4 inches of snow, a snow emergency is not to be declared. I talked to Mr. Murray, the DPS, because he's the guy that tells me if he's going to call in his crews. He says, I'm not calling him, Mayor, because we're going to be around 3.6 inches. We got 3.4 inches, all right? So we won't declare an emergency if that's the case. And the practice when an emergency is declared is he tells me when our vehicles will be available to actually start plowing. I will try and give at least 4 hours' notice before the snow emergency goes into effect. It usually will be put in effect for 24 hours. The last snow emergency declared was declared over 6 hours in advance. And the police department calls all of the radio and television stations to tell them that Allen Park's declared a snow emergency when it goes into effect. That was all done certainly in more than 5 hours. We also put it on our Nextel, and we put it on our website, and it goes on the city's Facebook page. So we give that notice, and we do it all as quickly and as fast as I contact the police department after talking to the DPS. Because I'm not going to declare a snow emergency if we haven't called out our vehicles. That's just foolish to have people moving their cars off the street and going through the inconvenience if we're not plowing. And so that's what was done this last time. But that's what we do every time. We evaluate how much snow there is.
I know my time's up. I want to thank you for the answer. But Harry, like you said, when citizens come up and call you and says my street was not plowed, it was because it was plowed, and your snow plows cannot go through 6 inches of snow and push it. And I understand. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Dennis Hayes, Quant. I wanted to report on the fact that I attended the first two Police and Fire Civil Service Commission meetings. We have 2 members. At the first meeting, it was determined that they couldn't reach an opinion on the 3rd member. So they invited the 2 other candidates who got votes in the election to appear, to be interviewed, as it were, and one other fellow who was whose name came up. One of the gentlemen did not appear. One of the others dropped out, who used to work in the fire department, and the third, who appeared, was interviewed, and no decision was made. But what also came to the attention of the members there and the people who attended was that the candidate that you all approved, the mayor's appointment that you voted to approve, acknowledged that he had recommended a person because the mayor gave him the name to put in for consideration, because evidently the guy had submitted a letter of inquiry to be put on the commission. So I rose to comment in the public comment section. I thought that was inappropriate because the mayor has an appointment. He doesn't have 2 appointments. That would be like the fire department or the police department saying, we voted for this guy, but now we want to recommend another guy. A proverbial stacking of the deck, as it were. So I made mention of that, and what concerned me more was that the gentleman who put that name into consideration said he didn't know who the guy was, didn't know anything about him. He was just given a name, and that's why he was offering him up. Now, obviously, they're at a stalemate at this juncture. There's no third party to serve on the commission. The commission calls for 3 people. Doesn't look like, from my vantage point, that there's going to be any decision made soon. What concerns me is that as we know, our history tells us that this commission could be very effective in dealing with grievances and problems that arise. We had a historical situation here where a police officer, had he had the benefit of this commission or had the commission been listened to, might not have gone down to the circuit court and obtained a judgment of some millions of dollars. We currently have multiple lawsuits pending in the police department. Whether they could have been remediated through the Police and Fire Civil Service Commission, I don't know. But the point is, we need an effective commission, and I just wanted to raise that point because I don't think any former police officer or fire department member should be considered ever, for one thing, because I think you should have had a neutral party, someone who's outside the system that we're trying to oversee. So I think the candidate, if one of the fire department people got nominated by the police, or they got voted on and they got selected, that's fine, because that's their right. The mayor can appoint some citizen, but I think the third party has to be mutually agreed upon, and I just am concerned about the way the process is going. I know Joe, our city attorney, was there. He heard my comments. I think others were there. I'm just concerned about the process. Thank you very much.
If the council wouldn't mind, I would like to respond to this. The person's name that went up was a retired police officer. He filed and had asked to be assigned the neutral spot for that position. It was sent. The city's candidate and I did talk, and I did say I knew the guy, and I thought he probably could be a neutral person, even though he was a former policeman for, I think, his entire police career here in Allen Park. Applications for all of our commissions come to one of two places, either my desk or the clerk's. I'm in charge of appointments, and so oftentimes when the clerk will get applications there, he will send them to my place. We have another person that has applied for the neutral position. I'm assuming that the clerk has sent that one out to the other two candidates. You didn't send it out.
Well, I don't know what you're referring to.
Okay. We'll talk about it at another time. But anyway, there is another person that has applied, and so his name would be sent simultaneously to both persons, and it would go from the clerk's office. This is an unusual place with fire and police, and so I'm not so certain that a police officer, fireman would say, I would like to serve and I think I can do a job that's neutral, and just because he may have knowledge from past work experience, I don't know that he would necessarily not be a good candidate. The two people that are appointed by the respective parties have to make that determination, and they have to live with their appointment. So I don't know any other way. I'm certainly fighting all the time to get more applications for all kinds of commissions in our city. And so when we get them, I don't like to ignore them, and to the extent that they apply for a specific job, assuming that they understand the mission statement and comply with that, I don't see any problem with either forwarding those to the council, or in this case, I think this is the only commission. No, there is the General Retirement Board.
General employees.
General Employees
Civil service.
Civil Service has a 5-person board, 2 appointed by us, 2 appointed by them, and those 4 have to select a 5th. So I think those are the only 2 that have that kind of appointment situation. So that's my comment about what we're doing, and I think it,
Are we allowed to speak too, Mayor, or is this strictly you?
well, I'm just answering a question, because he raised my name and said I did something he thought was inappropriate. I just wanted to explain what I did.
So I can't make a comment
Oh.
either?
No, you can't.
That's what I thought.
Okay, anybody else? Seeing none, we will move to the consent agenda. And there are purchasing actions, the approval of claims and accounts, and the payroll report, the finance actions, the December 2017 finance overview, budget to actual report, balance sheet and cash flow, then license and permits, a curbside pickup permit for Rene Recycling, the $50 fee for that, Handbill flyer permit by Rene Linares Fast Flyers, $100 fee. Could I have a motion on all those items, please?
Motion. Support.
Is that Councilman Templin that had moved?
Yes.
And Councilman DiGiulio is supported. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. Motion to extend the pavement marking contract with RS Contracting, Inc. at the same prices as 2017 and bypass the city bid process. No economic advantage since using same company as last year at same price.
Motion.
Motion by Councilwoman Gavrecki. Supported by Mayor Pro Tem McLeod. Is there any discussion by council? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried, thank you. Resolution to extend the pavement replacement program contract, street improvement millage provides for this work, with GV Cement at the same prices as 2016 and bypass the city bid process. No economic advantage since using same company as last year. So for 2016 and 17, I think we mean prices have been held. So can I have a motion there?
Motion.
Support. Councilman Rourke has moved, forgive me, to my right.
Templin.
Councilman Templin is supported. Any discussion here? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. Resolution to approve HydroCorp for the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality mandated commercial and residential cross-connection program for 3 years at a cost not to exceed $230,624, bypass the city bid process. No economic advantage since we already use them and Lincoln Park bid and only received one bid for their bid for this work. Motion, please.
Motion. Support.
Councilman Cisco and Councilman DiGiulio is supported. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Murray's here to discuss.
Mr. Murray, you want to explain a cross-connection to?
All right. A cross-connection is when you have something like a sprinkler system, a pool, a spa, anything that can back pressure water into the local system that can get other people sick, death, anything chemically related typically. We've done commercial for 10 years, residential. DEQ has required us starting as of this year and all the cities in the state of Michigan to start a residential program that will incur basically sprinkler systems, pools, and spas, hot tubs.
Okay. Any questions?
Well, do you want to explain that there'll be individuals walking around
Yes,
looking to
there's
see?
gonna be individuals that from this HydroCorp company walking just down the street mainly. They might look at your house to see if you have a sprinkler system, because we have no record of who has a sprinkler system, who does not, or who doesn't have a pool, or who does. Just an exterior look around, making a list. So
Checking it
probably
twice.
more around the spring to start walking it and making a list, and then they'll send out notices. They're gonna do some public advertisement of what this entails, so people understand, if they're getting a letter, what this is about and why it's required. Pretty much that's what their scope of work is, and then they take care of the inspections themselves. and
Will they be
requirements.
entering backyards?
Yes, they will have to enter backyards to see if you have pools.
So they'll go on people's property?
Yes.
Really? Yeah.
Yes, just like when we read a meter, I'm allowed to walk right up to the side of your house on your, I can't go in your house, but you can walk in a backyard typically, or look over the fence, more or less, is what they're doing for pools. They're not gonna probably go walking through backyards.
Mr. Murray, for clarification, why don't you explain why we are doing this? It's not
Public
something that,
protection, Safety.
It's
and-
mandated by-
Yep, it's mandated by the EPA, which then therefore becomes mandated by DEQ, and DEQ enforces it upon every place that has over 1,000 citizens. It could even be an apartment complex. Everyone is required, over 1,000 residents with a public supply system, to enact this project. And it'll go on into infinity, year in, year out.
And Mr. Murray, all commercial buildings
They
have,
currently are. They've been doing it for 10 years,
they've been
yes.
doing, and it's by law that they
Yes,
have
it's
to
by
do
law.
this.
Yes. There is an ordinance we have currently on the books, and it does not distinguish between commercial or residential, that if you're not in compliance after several attempts, you will have your water shut off.
What is it with
Until in
commercial
compliance.
buildings? What are you looking at there now?
In commercial buildings, you're looking at to see how, first, what kind of building they are. Are they a restaurant? Do they do chemical? You know, anything of that nature. It tells you whether you're a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, determines how often you're inspected, how often you're tested. That's how commercial works. It's usually as in you have to have backflow preventers, so the water, if we have a water main break outside, your water inside the house cannot then enter the public system. And that's why sprinklers the same thing. If we have a water main break at this time right now and we depressure the water main, and you have a problem with your valve that is outside your sprinkler system, if you have fertilizer, it can get into the public supply system. So this is for the protection of everyone.
Another one. How, you say they've done our commercial, they're doing, like, how are they identified? What kind of identification do they carry? How are they visible?
They have a badge, it says the City of Allen Park, we give them one, and it
Okay.
says for HydroCorp, who the company is. They introduce themselves, they first send letters prior.
Okay,
They will send letters, for the residential, they're just walking down a street,
right.
for the most part. I don't see them
Other
going in
than-
backyards, they didn't say they're going in there, but I
But if
mean.
they're looking over fences and stuff like that, I
Right,
want to
they'll
make.
have a badge on, and they have the gentleman that we deal with from the company has a small car, and it has the sign, says HydroCorp, on the side of his vehicle.
Just want to make sure that he's lit up in LEDs and everything else,
They're
so
pretty,
people
they're
know
pretty
that.
professional. If someone were to come out and ask, you know, what are you doing, they have no problem explaining what they're just checking for.
Right. Okay.
And again, they've told me they're gonna send out pamphlets to everybody, pretty much most are citizens, not just the ones they find, to let them know what they're doing prior.
In essence, they're going to require backflow preventer valves also on any exterior faucet.
Correct, especially if you have a pool or a hot tub. They're not, if you do not have a pool, hot tub, or sprinkler, you're not on their list, won't be on their list currently to make sure of that. Most communities around us, when they have a building, department that does permitting for selling homes and stuff, that is a requirement of almost all cities and communities, that you have that on all your devices, in your house and outside.
So, but this
But
will
this
not be
system is not
required
gonna
for
be
this
required.
inspection, so.
Not on this one, no.
So if you have that water faucet in the back, for the
And you don't
backyard,
have
and
a
one for the
pool or-
side yard in the
correct.
front, but
Eventually, that might come down, probably years
even
from
though it
now.
has a hose connected to it with a sprinkler.
Correct.
How will they know if you have a hot tub in your home?
In your home, they won't. We're not doing inside inspections. So
Will
that's-
you
we're
ask
leaving
though or
that
not?
for-
I mean,
No.
not even ask?
We're gonna leave that for the building department if they ever have a permit action that they have to go in. It'll be probably part of that, and I'm sure it is part of it right now.
I mean, I don't know if anybody has one in their home, but I'm just curious about it.
There's a few.
Do they? Where would you put it, in the basement? Has to
Somewhere
be,
in the
right?
basement, yeah.
Be
I
awful
haven't
heavy.
seen many.
Heavy. It'd be heavier than us.
Just a suggestion in the letter that we send, we might suggest to people that would save some time for other letters being sent out, that if they're subject to this statute, that if they get a certified letter from the plumber that they're in compliance and send it in, it might save us some time to have that, so the
They
people.
first have to be put on a list, and they have to have an inspection first. Inspection, not as from a plumber inspection, from Hydro Design or HydroCorp. They do the inspection, initial inspection, to see if you're in compliance without your do you have a backflow preventer on your device? Things of that nature. They check that every 3 years. And then, I don't know the requirement, we haven't got into detail, but then you have to be tested, not inspected. They're two different things. Your device has to be then tested by a plumber. It's very in-depth.
Well, I'm just thinking, when you're doing a walkabout, getting access to see
Well, it's just an
What's there?
outside wall. You can, we're looking mainly for sprinklers, that's the biggest hit list item. A pool, you don't have your hose sitting in there all winter long, all summer long. Your sprinkler is on usually typically every day and loses pressure every day as you turn it off. That's your biggest, that, in the commercials, I said tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Residential would be the same way. A tier 1 is gonna be, the top one is gonna be a sprinkler system. A tier 2 would probably be a pool, because you fill your pool, you might leave your hose in there and turn it off, and that's your backflow, prevention. And a hot tub, how often are you really doing that comparatively?
Any other questions by council? Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Murray. Ask for the vote, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's carried. We're down to other business, so comments by council. Can I see who? Councilman DiGiulio.
Well, Mr. Mayor, at least I get to talk about it now. I've attended both of the Police and Fire Civil Service Commission meetings, and Mr. Young, who seems to know nobody in the city, I know you brought up his name and we approved him, but he doesn't know anyone, and he claims that you gave him the name of somebody that would be a good person for the committee. I don't understand that. I mean, it seems like you want two bites at the apple. You appointed one person, and now you're telling one of the commissioners, the one that we approved here, to appoint someone else that would be to your approval, I'm assuming. Otherwise, you wouldn't give the name out. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think you should be doing that. You're the mayor. You're supposed to stay neutral on something like that. You're not supposed to be involved with the Police and Fire Commission. You're a DDA member, not a Police and Fire Commission member. So I think they do need to go out probably and find someone. But the other fellow that applied for the job, I mean, he was an excellent candidate. He's a war hero. He was, not that that matters that he was a war hero, but he was, you know. So to not even consider him, they're at a stalemate, the two commissioners, so I don't know where that's going to go. I don't know if you're allowed to be at a stalemate or if you have to have a third commissioner. Maybe you don't have to have a third one. I don't know what the rules are over there. But I do think you don't need to be giving people, commissioners, the name of a person to appoint. Thank you. And by the way, Mr. Murray, you guys did a great job on the streets. You plowed mine 3 or 4 times. Maybe it's because I live there. No, I'm just kidding. But you did. I mean, all over the city. And on 7 in the morning, when I took my wife out for her morning feeding, Allen Road was just cleared up beautifully. I mean, just it was wet, but it was all cleared up. Okay, Mayor, go ahead. It's your turn to bite me.
Just would once again say that how applications come, they were sent in. Mr. Young is an 8 to 9 year resident of the city. I did say I knew this person, and I thought that he could be a good neutral person. That's what was said, and we will continue to send applications where APCO, and normally even on any other commission, when I get one, I will call that person and ask them if they understand the mission statement for that particular commission or whatever, which is much different for this one, and it will be the same issue for the employees, general employees retirement account, because we have those 4 people appointing a 5th person. But those applications have to go out. I don't think they should be restricted unless the clerk or myself know of some substantial reason why I wouldn't recommend that person to the commission, such as I know they have a felony record, I know they have a drug record, something like that. But that is one of the duties of the mayor, is to send out applications and to recommend people. So with that, any other comments by
Well, speaking of public safety, today is National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. So thank you to all those that didn't know that, huh, Chief? Good. But thank you for everybody that is sworn in to serve and those citizens that bring things to our attention, because if it's not for you looking out for your neighborhoods and everything else and helping them and getting cars off the street when we have snow and trying to do things like that, we appreciate it. So thank you.
Oh, I guess I will.
Councilman Gabrek, excuse me.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Looking forward to the warmer weather this week. And thank you for everybody that had I guess all the residents, not the residents, I'm sorry, the employees that had to work out in those extreme cold weather last week and the week before. Since our last meeting, I just want to recognize the passing of two Allen Park people. And one is Del Parada, who was a former councilman and I believe sat on the planning commission. So a longtime resident of Allen Park, as well as condolences to the family of Ann Bockel, whose husband was the owner of Park Athletic. So we start a new year, and I'm looking forward to all the changes that will be coming with City Hall and our police department in a few short months. It seems like we worked on it forever, the committee, and it really is coming to fruition sooner than later. So I'm looking forward to it and appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem McLeod.
You listen to people and things cross your mind. I want to piggyback on what Tina said about all the individuals who have had to work out in this weather. Every time I drove down a street and saw water bubbling up from a water main that broke, I thought about the poor individuals that had to go out there. When I was commenting that I had to was driving into Lincoln Park and one freezing night, and the lights were out at Fort Street and Southfield, and there was policemen directing traffic, and that was not something I'd want to put anyone out into. Also, because on occasion I cruise through the city's website, I see posted there an announcement that says, residents, please apply for committee and commission seats. The application is online. I have seen it published in the News Herald asking for the same thing. They're always taking and accepting appointments. We have a lot of citizens out there. I don't believe that there's any age limits. Maybe you have to be 18. But I would strongly encourage you, no matter how long you've lived in this city, whether you're a relative newcomer or you've lived here all your life, give it a shot. Start participating, find out what it's all about, become a part of the solution. Thank you all for coming out. Have a wonderful new year. Stay safe and healthy. Do watch out for black ice. I heard that we've got this wonderful melting, but they're also talking about freezing, which I found when I went to take some of the slush off of my sidewalk today. I darn near ended up somewhere I didn't want to be because it looked really nice. And then I put my foot down and I started this slide and I thought, no, not good. So they are warning about black ice tomorrow, so be very careful when you're driving. Thank you all and have a good evening.
Councilman Cisco.
Yes, and just like pass my condolences on to the Parada family. Del Parada, wonderful man, and spent many years in service to the city of Allen Park in various ways. So he will be missed. And on a happier note, I'd like to, and I don't do this too often, I'd like to say happy birthday to Mr. Henry Piccone, who turned 96 the other day. Longtime Allen Park resident, raised a wonderful family here, still going strong. His friends call him Hank. So Hank, happy birthday. And I know you'll have many, many, many more. And just one other thing to say is that, and I'm on a kick here about this for the students that are here. When you get the opportunity to turn 18, if you're not 18 already, please register to vote and go vote. It is your duty to vote, actually. I believe it's a duty to go vote. And I remember when I turned 18, I couldn't wait to vote. I just couldn't wait. And I have not missed too many voting opportunities in my lifetime. And it is important, vitally important now. The future is yours, and you can make a better future by voting. So Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you.
I, too, want to thank everyone come out, and it's very nice to see all the students out here. I don't know if the semester's ending or a new one's beginning, but welcome. And I do want to mention that by charter, the mayor is to give an annual state of the city. I will give the city's address tomorrow night in this chamber at 7 p.m. It will be recorded and put on the webpage the next day, or website, or in Comcast, and is it WOW? They will have it. 7 p.m. At the conclusion, I will be taking questions from the audience for a certain amount of time. It has not been done for 6 years because the emergency manager ordered that the mayor not speak to the citizens, and that that continued through the receivership transition administrative board, which ended in February of this year. So it's the first time really that an annual state of the city is available for the mayor to give to you residents. So I look forward to it. I think a lot has occurred, and most of it has been reported at our meetings, but I'll kind of try and summarize what they are, because I think a lot of people will not realize just how much the various departments in the central administration has done in providing service to our citizens, our businesses, and guests that come here. So with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Councilman Rourke had his hand up first. Councilman DiGiulio supported. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned at 6:50.